Hiya, friendos. Welcome back to another episode of Washing Dishes. I've been a professional cook, chef, caterer, private chef, etc. for nigh on 20 years now, and the most common question I get asked probably is, what's your favorite thing to cook? And I never have a good answer for that. The best I ever come up with is, one of my favorite things to do is to take old school, classic, traditional comfort food and make a fine dining version of it. So today, we're going to do that with one of the comfort food dishes of my people, Hungarian Paprikash. In fact, the brand of paprika that I'm using is from the same town in Hungary that my great-grandfather was born in. So, go figure. I didn't even notice till I got it home from the store. Paprikash is a braised dish consisting of a protein, some peppers and onions, and a lot of paprika. And it's usually served with spätzle or noodles or potatoes. And I'm going to do a riff on Anthony Bourdain's riff on Joel Robuchon's mashed potatoes. So you can make paprikash with a lot of different kinds of protein. You could do, the really traditional one is chicken, but you could do pork, you could do beef. Today, because we're doing a fine dining version, I'm going to use some beautiful duck. So stick around, we're going to get the duck going. We're going to make some pickled scallions, do some veggies. It's going to be delicious. Hang out and check it out.
All right, first up is the pickled scallions. We're just going to trim the ends, strip off the outside dried out gross layers, and then pop them in the jar, trim off the ends, and then we'll get the brine going. For the brine, we're going with some garlic, some pickling spice. I'm eyeballing all of this, and so some salt, and then we're going cider vinegar because that's the only sweetness I'm going to add to these pickles. And then, of course, we're going to add a few black peppercorns. And we're just going to let that come up to a rolling boil and then let it sit at that rolling boil for like maybe 3 to 5 minutes. And then we're going to go ahead and add it to our jar. We're going to go ahead and fill this all the way to the tippy top. And then we're going to go ahead and pop the lid on. And I'm just going to let this sit at room temperature until the rest of the food is ready. It should be, a reasonable temperature by that time, and these are just going to add a really nice kind of pop of brightness and color to the final dish.
For the duck, we're going to keep things pretty simple, at least to start. I've got some leg thigh quarters. I've got 4 of them, which is one more than I need for how many people are eating dinner tonight, I hope. Anyway, for now we're just going to salt and pepper them. Obviously, we are going to add a bunch of paprika, but not just yet. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll get them into the cold pan. Yes, I said a cold pan. I'll explain as we go.
The reason we're starting in a cold pan is actually also the reason that we're not adding the paprika just yet. We're going to start these in a cold pan, and we're going to bring them up at a very low, very slow heat. And what that's going to do is allow us to render a lot of the duck fat out of these legs thigh quarters, and that's going to let us cook all of our duck and our veggies and our sauce in that incredibly rich, delicious, amazing duck fat. The problem is, if we added the paprika now, it would burn. One of the downsides to shooting by myself on my phone is that I can't shoot 2 things at once, so trust me, the duck is coming along nicely. You can hear it in the background. The other problem is that I ran out of storage mid-shot here, so I'm dicing most of these bell peppers and onions, but I'm also cutting a few of them into kind of a thick baton julienne kind of shape. The dice are going to get... they're going to be used to make the sauce, and then the longer, prettier ones are going to be used in the final dish as the veg element. So just trust me on this stuff. We'll get to it. You'll see. I promise. The duck's been going for about 20 minutes at a super, super low heat, and as you can see, we've rendered out a ton of duck fat. We've gotten some beautiful browning on our duck skin, and we've generated a lot of tasty, tasty fond in the bottom of the pan. So we're going to give these a flip, get some browning on the other side, and then we'll go ahead and start our braise. Step 1 to any good braise we've already completed, and that's brown the meat in the pan and then remove it, which we're doing here. Then you're just going to add some veggies, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, stir them around, and in our case, we're adding a whole ton of paprika. I'm using a mixture of hot paprika and some smoked paprika, which is going to get us our, depth of complexity of flavor. It's also going to keep the spice level down because we're not looking to make it crazy spicy, although even hot paprika is not really spicy. It's just peppery rather than smoked. So we're using salt, pepper, and I'm using about equal parts smoked paprika and hot paprika, and it's totaling up to about 3.5 tablespoons of total paprika. Once we've softened the veggies and given them a chance to kind of cook down and release their moisture, we're going to go ahead and add our duck back in. And then we're going to add, I'm using chicken stock. Duck stock would be better. Homemade would be better, but whatever. Use what you've got. Use what you can get access to. And we're just going to add a quart of this. It's going to come most of the way up our duck thighs, and we're just going to kind of let this go until it's tender. It ended up taking me a little bit over an hour, I think about 75 minutes. But however long it takes is how long it takes. I can't give you an exact time because every situation is going to be a little bit different. Expect it to take somewhere in the 45 to 75 minute range.
The potatoes are soft, so I'm going to go ahead and get those into our food mill, a couple of halves at a time, or 4 halves at a time. And the food mill just presses them against a screen. I'll try to get you a good shot in a sec. That it presses them against the screen and presses them through in a very fine, very airy kind of state. Let me bring you in closer and I'll give you a better view.
So with this better view, you can see it just kind of is a wedge that presses the potato through that screen and down into the pan. You just kind of turn it a few times one way, turn it a couple of times back, repeat, presses everything through, scrape down the sides, etc., and you end up with a beautiful, airy, light, consistent mashed potato ready to go. We can even use it to add our butter and just crank it through, and then we've got mashed potatoes, glorious, creamy, rich, barely even a solid mashed potatoes that will be absolutely beautiful on our final plate.
The duck's been going for about 45 minutes, maybe 50, and the sauce is starting to get nice and reduced. I'm going to go ahead and pull the duck and strain the sauce. Set these over here to rest. And then I'm going to go ahead and strain off the liquid from the onions and peppers. They have given their all and added a ton of flavor to the sauce, so we will say goodbye to them and thank them for the flavor. Let me get the rest of them out of the pan because we still need the pan. These can go away. And I'm going to run it through an even finer strainer back into the pan.
And after that strain, we've got a nice clear-ish, well, smooth at least, sauce. So we're going to go ahead and pop our julienne peppers and onions. As you can see, I promised I cut them. Here they are. Anyway, we're just going to get those in gently and just kind of let them sit and poach while the sauce reduces down. And they're going to cook gently. We're going to lose some of the sharpness from the onions. We're going to kind of enhance the sweetness in the peppers and the onions and bring them up to temperature. But we don't want to lose the kind of crunchy flavor that they had. And so we're not going to overdo it. We're just going to let them get warm, let them start to get soft, and then we're going to go ahead and plate up. I couldn't fit all the elements on the table, so we're doing it up close. We're going to start with a nice sized pile of these delicious silky mashed potatoes, which, as you can see, barely stay on the spatula. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and add our julienne and poached bell peppers and onions, which have absorbed a lot of beautiful flavor from the sauce that they poached in. We're going to go ahead and add, at this point, our kind of centerpiece, which is our duck paprikash. And we're going to kind of stack it on top so that it doesn't cover everything, but so that it gets to use the mashed potatoes and the veggies as a base to kind of give it some height on the plate. And that's why I cut them apart, so that we can get them to stand up, maybe. All right, so on to the scallions, which we're just going to lay in a little cross here. Again, they lost some of their color, but it's still kind of a nice brightness to the dish in both flavor and color. Sauce kind of went everywhere. It's fine. You can clean it up. Here we go. A little bit of chive oil that I had around. Just a few dots on the plate. Again, to add some brightness in both color and flavor. And then, of course, a little bit on top so that we get that kind of nice brightness in each bite. And then just a few little sprinkles of paprika. Honestly, I probably should have left this off, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. All in all, I say we ended up with a pretty beautiful dish. Let's give it a taste.
Plating's done. Let's give it a taste. I'm going to start with the potatoes. Yes. Rich, creamy, of course, like just the most like velvety, silky, spectacular mashed potatoes ever. Let's go ahead and give this duck a little taste. Perfect. It's just rich and like meaty, and it's just duck is like everything good about dark, like the dark meat of a chicken amped up to like by like 10 times. It's spectacular. The peppers and onions I'm sure are very nice. Let's taste those. They've got the flavor of the sauce. They're still nice and crunchy. And then these pickled scallions I'm super excited for. I've actually never made them before, so let's give them a taste. Just what I wanted. Nice and bright, kind of zesty. Really lightens everything up, because this is otherwise a very heavy, very rich meal. So having that really lightens it up. I'm going to plate up another couple plates of these for my friends who are over. I hope you have a wonderful rest of whatever time zone you may be in. Again, I love making comfort food into fine dining options. Whether you make it fancy or not, I hope you find the recipes useful, and I hope you try something like this in your own kitchen. Until next time, I've been Washing the Wind. You can catch me in these other videos and in the socials down below. As always, thank you to everybody who watches and likes and comments and subscribes. It means the world to me. Catch you later. Bye-bye.